Before we start, I'd like to turn this over to Mr. Keller for an announcement and procedures.
Yeah, so just a housekeeping item tonight, a reminder to everyone who'd like to comment at tonight's meeting. For those that are participating virtually, wishing to speak during the public comment, whether participating by electronic device or telephone, you must submit your name and full address through the GoToMeeting chat or the email administration@pottstown.org. Requests to speak will be accepted until 7:15 p.m., at which time the chat and the email will be shut down and we won't take any further requests for comment. Of course, those that are attending in person that wish to speak, please sign the sign-in sheet at the front of the meeting room here. And once we get to that point in the agenda, we'll call out your names and everyone will have 3 minutes to speak. So if you're sending a chat request or an email request, you don't have to put your comment in that. Just send us your name and your address. Thank you.
Okay. Let me call to order the March 9, 2022 meeting, the Committee of the Whole meeting of Borough Council. I would ask you to rise for a moment of silence, followed by the pledge to the flag. Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I want to interject one thing before I start, and that's a congratulations to our Director of Finance, Marley Boone. Last Wednesday, she gave birth to a healthy baby boy. So our best wishes go out to you, Marley. Under subcommittee reports, Vice President Lebedinsky, Infrastructure.
Okay, last month I teased that we were going to have some great news. Guess what?
What?
We have great news. We took some data over the last 5 months about the trash. Now, we've heard a lot of people talk about trash and how the groups that we have that take our trash are not doing the job. Well, over the last 5 months, we were taking data. We had a whole 153 complaints in 5 months, which is basically 1 complaint a day, plus or minus. Now, we have 8,607 units that these trash collectors touch each week. And if you do the simple math, it comes out to about a 0.37% failure rate. Okay, which means 99.63% of us is getting our trash done and collected on a prompt basis. If you look at that as a Sigma level, for those who know what a black belt or lean Six Sigma is, with the efficiency committee, we're looking at between a 4 and 5 Sigma company. And what you're seeing is the complaints are really minimal. And from what you see on social media or anything else, they're getting the job done. And with the bad weather, with COVID, and the problems that they do have, you're going to have spikes at particular times because of this. But we have the data here, and we're showing you, and we can show you that these complaints are relatively minimal. So anybody who wants to tell you that Mascara's not doing their job, you can tell them to come talk to us, because they're wrong.
Very good.
Thank you.
Transportation?
No meeting.
No meetings. Efficient methods. Don?
That goes back to what we were just talking about with the trash, as
Yeah.
far as infrastructure.
Okay.
Same thing.
Ordinance review, Councilor Proskal. Nothing. Emergency Services, Chief Hand.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight's not my night that I normally give the official statistics. I just wanted to follow up, as a lot of people in the borough know, we had a tragic fire on Chestnut Street. The fire is still under investigation, but we can assure you that there was no foul play or anything like that went on We're just trying to get at what the real cause is through some other means. The big thing for that was, and I reported at the directors meeting, that it was a total borough effort between the police, fire, EMS, and our license and inspections to make sure that the building was safe and people could get back in their homes. And, you know, it was a tragic event that we just all had to pitch in and get to. So that's all I have for tonight, unless anyone has any other questions. Ben.
Good. That's fine. Thank you. Human Relations, Ms. Levengood?
I'm actually going to
Oh.
stand in for her if that's okay. She's not able to make it to the meeting tonight.
By all means.
Okay, so March is Irish American Heritage Month. We celebrate the achievements and contributions of Irish Americans. The next Human Relations Commission meeting is scheduled for April 12th at 6 p.m. in council chambers, and that is a public meeting, so it is open to the public. Feel free to come and join us. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you. How about the library? Mrs. Hilton?
You're muted.
Can't hear you.
Again, good evening, Borough Council.
There.
I'm happy to introduce you to our new Executive Director, Miss Mindy Lipsky. Your constituents with children may already know Mindy as our Youth Services Director, and her office was downstairs in the Children's Department. She was selected by the Board of Directors with a unanimous vote, and we are feeling very optimistic about the future of our library with Mindy at the helm. Mindy is here tonight to meet you and to give you a chance to meet her and to give our monthly report. So I hope she can be heard. I didn't tell her any of that information about getting heard. So
Can you hear me?
I can. Okay, great. All right.
I'm
Mindy,
not
take it away.
new to this. Well, thank you, everyone. I won't take up too much time. The library is doing wonderfully. We have lots of wonderful plans started out. I was appointed as of February 28th, so we're only like a week and a half in, but we have a lot of great things planned on the horizon. And I really do want to work closely with the borough and borough committees to make sure that the library becomes a community hub where we can serve our community and your constituents. So thanks.
Thank you, Mindy. Thank you, Council.
Okay, thank you. How about the Ricketts Center? Counselor Kirkland, is he on? Not here?
No, but
Anything to add?
the packet is in there.
Just the packet, okay. And the school district, Counselor Lindsay?
Okay, I'm going to talk about the mask mandate has changed for the school district from mandatory to mask recommended, almost like how the borough is. Pre-K and kindergarten online registrations will open March 14th. The school district last month was celebrating Black History, and the libraries were celebrating Women's History for the month, so Barth and Franklin. And Shrek, the play was awesome. I went there on Friday, not this Friday, the past Friday. I think it was the first night. It was wonderful. I don't understand how they remember their lines. I was like, I was looking at the play, but I was like, how you remember your lines? It was amazing. So if you missed it, shame. But it was good. It was really good. So kudos to the kids, the staff, the schools, and the parents who was involved. It was really good. That's it.
Very good. Anything to report, Mayor Hendrick?
Good evening, how are you? If you didn't see 60 Minutes last week on CBS, I highly suggest that you watch it. It is about 2 minutes of Evan Brandt and Pottstown featured. I have a whole new found respect for Evan Brandt. Not only is he the one-man band show of the Mercury, but he also reports the news for 20 other plus districts and neighborhoods around our town. So and I believe 9 school districts, which is hard enough for us to just deal with Pottstown. So I can't imagine what a difficult job that is. So thank you, Evan. I appreciate it. We appreciate you. With the exception of 60 Minutes, I also attended a community leaders breakfast meeting, and I have a lot of information, so I'll share in a moment. Joe Cerisi had his volunteer training breakfast at the Metro Diner. He discussed political process and canvassing and waiting on the new district. And there is a lot going on, so I will try to speak slowly. March 15th, Pottstown Middle School, which is 600 North Franklin Street, from 7 to 8 p.m. They're having a Pottstown Education Funding Vigil, which is organized by a coalition of faith-based groups, and they encourage everyone to attend. I will be there. On March 17th, the YMCA is doing a blood drive. I will be donating at 3:30. The American Red Cross is experiencing the largest blood shortage that they have ever seen. So I encourage everyone to go onto the American Red Cross website and sign up for, there's multiple locations that you can go to donate blood. The YMCA is also on March 18th is having a Healthy Kids Day. And April 30th, they're going to have a national event outside with vendors this year. The Pottstown Housing Coalition membership meeting is on April 6th in council chambers. Anyone who has an interest in housing issues or in the town, please join. There's a housing survey and experience with the Borough survey online. If you go to the Pottstown Housing Coalition website, you can complete the survey. It's pottstownhousing.org. I'm excited that the police department has started Create with a Cop again. Their first program is already taking place. They are seeking applications for students who would like to get involved for the next section, which starts on April 7th. It's an 8-week program at Art Fusion. And you can go to artfusion19464.org to fill out the application, where you, I think they're doing pottery and clay making. So your kids can create some memorable pieces with the Pottstown Police Department. April 9th, Montgomery County Community College is having their spring open house at Riverfront Park. April 21st, they're also having their, they're celebrating 25 years. They're having fireworks.
Sorry, I
It's been a
laughed.
really long week. I apologize.
It's okay, Mayor. It's okay.
Fireworks and food trucks, not fire trucks, from 8 to 9 p.m. And if you go to their website on April 23rd, their Honor Society is hosting a cleanup, and that anyone can join. They're going to begin at North Hall parking lot. We have a lot of cleanups taking place. It's nice to see. April 30th, Edgewood Cemetery cleanup and art fair is at 9 a.m. May 4th, Take It Outdoors is moving to Riverfront Park, and their ribbon cutting will be on May 4th. I think their seasonal hours will begin on Memorial Day. And there's going to be a cleanup around Riverfront Park. So if you can go to their website, you can sign up as a group or an individual, and they're going to hold their first big event on May 21st at the park. I believe it's an international paddling film festival hosted by or sponsored by Video Ray. And I know I promised last year that I would participate in the sojourn. But I'm still going to do so, but I'm not going to be able to do the full 7 day. So, if anyone would like to join me for the sojourn, they are coming through Pottstown on June 20th. So if anyone would like to come out and kayak with me for the day, let me know. Hobart's Run's doing a ton of cleanups May 7th and May 21st. Check Facebook page or contact Kathy Skitko. They also have tools available to lend out if there are any other people who want to host a cleanup in their neighborhood on those days or alternate days. They're also having a yard sale on June 4th. It is $10, bring your own table, and the proceeds go to Edgewood Cemetery and Hobart's Run program. And Montgomery County Community Day is on August 27th. I'm super excited about this. They are opening their Challenger Center exhibit. It's the grand opening from 9 to 2 at Riverfront Park. They're doing a 5K space run. They're going to have vendors and food trucks, maybe fire trucks, who knows. If you want to have a table and participate in the event, please contact the college. And I think they are looking at creating a walking path, which sounds really cool. It's going to be a scale model of the solar system, which will run from the edge of Hanover Street along the campus and out towards Manatawny, which will complement the Challenger Center. So that will be pretty interesting. Just one announcement. Community Health and Dental has a ton of N95 masks. They are distributing them for free at 3 locations to any patient of Community Health and Dental or community members. Each individual will receive 3 masks. I know that mask restrictions are being lifted, but they are still required in some places. And if you are sick and coughing, it is nice to wear a mask and not spread whatever you have around. Also, for those of you who contracted Omicron, I want to just let you know if you've been having sinus issues, that is apparently part of the long recovery of this. And most, if not all, of these sinus issues have to be resolved with antibiotics, which I learned the hard way. So just to let you know, go to the doctor if you had Omicron and are having sinus issues. And I just want to thank Luke and Laura Johnson. They gave me the privilege of bunny sitting for them. And as many of you know, we lost our little mascot, Princess Sophia, last year. And so we've been without bunnies for over a year. It's been very hard. So I want to thank Brownie and Millie. They were very good and well behaved. So thank you. And that concludes our report.
Mr. Keller, the manager's report.
Yeah, so good evening, everyone. A couple updates on paving on High Street. So at this time, Alan Myers has a tentative start date for the milling and paving on East High Street between Kime Street and the Borough line. They expect to begin that on March 21st. And that was one of the areas that we were somewhat concerned about because we have the bike race in June. So we were able to get them to hopefully get that completed in time for the bike race. Then as the Pico work moves along, that will be occurring on April 30th. They're tentatively starting that work from Charlotte to Price Street on High. And then obviously for both these projects, we'll be sure to put out more updates on our social media and on our website as we get them. Update on the King Street Bridge. So that is still slated for opening to traffic on April 15th, the last that I heard. However, that could shift a couple days here or there, depending on the weather and some other factors. I'm still working with them, with PennDOT, to try to coordinate a date for a ribbon cutting when we can invite the elected officials in the community out to celebrate that important roadway finally being open again. The ornamental streetlight installation, that is underway by our staff on the 300 and 400 blocks of High Street. So we secured 20 grants, or 20 lights through a grant, and we're hoping that this will be completed by late spring, which will really add to the safety and the security of that area. The good news for the arch repair work at 42 Walnut Street, we were informed last week that DEP permits were approved, and we're currently working on getting all the paperwork from the contractor, and they'll begin procuring materials, and then we'll set up a pre-construction meeting with the residents and the contractor and the engineer in the next few weeks. We also attended the county's recovery funding meeting, which I'm sure many of you have seen as well. They have $178 million in Recovery Act funds that they're going to give out in grants to municipalities, nonprofits, and others. A lot of it is slated for water, sewer, stormwater kind of work, but also to help people that were impacted by the pandemic. So grants will go to nonprofits, social services, so on and so forth. Just want to let everyone know that since the borough will also be applying to the county for these funds, it's unlikely that we'll be able to offer an initial letter of support to outside entities prior to them making the application. The reason being is that we're directly competing with these entities for the dollars. And at this point, in order to respond to those that are seeking the county recovery funds, the borough will be coordinating with the county to review all applications in the borough at the same time. And since we expect a strong demand from outside entities, we won't take a position on support until we can review the merits of all applications comparatively. So once the county's application process is under review, we'll begin coordinating with them to evaluate which ones are planned for the borough, and then we can also review that list with council at that time as well, prior to making any decision on support. And that's all that I have.
Very good.
Jamie, yours, and it's probably like.
Okay, number 10, we're going to have a presentation for zoning relief by Lyft. Mr. Prince.
You could have got me before this.
No, wait. Right there. Health
Yeah.
and wellness is.
Yeah.
Health and-
Oh,
Yeah, they are.
you're right, Myra. I checked it off too quickly, yeah. Pottstown Health and Wellness. Mr. Callistra?
Dan, we have Jamie Orr from the car show. It's like 1 in the morning. Can you go after Craig and do a short presentation on the car show?
Sure.
Okay.
What is it?
It's for the car show. He's doing like a European theme car
Oh,
show.
okay.
Yeah. So, Jamie Orr.
Welcome.
Sorry, Craig. All right, so we have Craig Callistra here from the Pottstown Area Health and Wellness Foundation. I understand that he's going to be giving us a brief update on the community needs survey. So, Craig, I can kind of try to drive the car here, and you just tell me where to go.
All right, will do. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Borough Council. My name is Craig Callistra. I'm a program officer with the Pottstown Area Health and Wellness Foundation. Here with you tonight to just make you aware of the Pottstown Community Survey that we are conducting in partnership with PHMC, Public Health Management Corporation. You can go ahead to the next slide. We've been partnering, the Pottstown Area Health and Wellness Foundation enhances health and wellness of area residents, providing education, funding, and programs that provide equitable access, inclusive opportunities for all residents to adopt a healthy lifestyle. And Public Health Management Corporation works in partnership with communities, government, business, the healthcare sector, and other nonprofit agencies to address pressing public health challenges throughout the U.S. They're a 501c3 that's located in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Next slide, please. And we do have a history with PHMC in conducting health needs assessments. Every 4 or 5 years, the foundation does conduct a health needs assessment to get an understanding of health needs, health concerns of Pottstown residents. You can go to pottstownfoundation.org to see this list of prior health needs assessments dating back to 2004. These health needs assessments have looked at the entire Tri-County area, and they've been telephone interviews. So we will look at the Tri-County area and look at school district level data. Next slide, please. This survey will be a little bit different. We are focusing on the Pottstown community, but the purpose will remain the same. The purpose of the survey is to gather information about the health and well-being of residents from their point of view. So the survey will ask residents about health behaviors, health outcomes, access to medical care, what it's like to live in their neighborhood, and also barriers to learn, earn, and play in Pottstown, also known as social determinants of health. Next slide, please. So you may be wondering why we're collecting this data. This data is used for many purposes. It's used for funding. Community organizations and institutions use information to apply for funding for programs and projects that address community needs. Every application that's submitted, we're talking about ARPA funds, those applications require a strong justification and need and also some strong data to support that need. Advocacy, this tool is used to advocate for resources and improvement when we communicate with our elected officials. And lastly, we use it along with other nonprofit organizations, municipalities, school districts to identify priority issues and direct resources to programs and projects that have the greatest impact. Next slide, please. So here's a map of the areas that we will be reaching out to. These are census block groups in the borough of Pottstown. So again, this survey is a little bit different where we are going to be focusing on Pottstown and focusing on specific census block groups. These residents in the census block groups may experience higher levels of barriers to healthcare access and positive health outcomes, which is why we're focusing on these areas. So we have these areas here that are shaded in green, as well as to the left, that is the Bright Hope community. So a little bit about the survey. Every household in the shaded area, as well as the Borough community, will receive a letter in the mail. This letter will direct them to an online survey. For those that are not interested in completing it online or they have barriers to completing it online, they can reach out and conduct a telephone interview or an in-person interview. We will be encouraging residents to take the survey. They will receive a $10 gift card for taking this survey as an incentive. Next slide. And the survey will go out, hold on one second. The survey will go out at the beginning of April. It'll be open for about 6 weeks. There'll be a couple reminders that'll go out in the mail. So if you happen to live in one of these areas, I encourage you to please take the survey. Also tell your friends and family members about this survey. Next slide, please. As you're out in the community, you may see these signs right here. These will be flyers that we'll have in the community, just informing residents of the survey. To the left there, all they need to do is complete a short health survey. They'll receive a $10 gift card and ultimately to help the community. There's a QR code there in the corner that will provide them with frequently asked questions so they can gather a little bit more information. Just so you know, these responses will be confidential. They'll be included with hundreds of other responses in order to ultimately have a report for Pottstown and community residents on the health needs of our residents. Next slide, please. Out in the community, you may also see survey ambassadors. These ambassadors are going to be out in the community raising awareness of the survey to encourage participation and answer residents' questions. They'll be visiting businesses, they'll be visiting nonprofit organizations, community centers, again, to raise awareness. You may see them at community events. Ambassadors do receive a $50 TD Bank gift card for every 3 hours of outreach. We do have ambassadors already, but we are looking for a particularly bilingual survey ambassador. So if you know of anyone that may be interested in this opportunity, please reach out to Pottstown Community Survey at phmc.org. Or if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to reach out to this email address. That's all for me. Thank you for your time.
Great,
Thank you.
thank you. And now, Mr. Prince,
We're not taking.
Can we do the car show?
real quick. He's online?
Yeah.
Okay, we have an individual has to make a quick announcement and then leave, so go ahead.
Yeah, sorry about this, Mr. Prince, just 1 second.
No,
So
it's quite all right.
we have a gentleman I think is in a different time zone. It's fairly late for him right now. And this is actually the item for the automobile show display on September 4th, 2022. They are requesting to close High Street, the 100 through 300 blocks, and 100 South Hanover to 100 North Hanover Street. And it's my understanding that this would be similar to it will be a European kind of slated car show. But Jamie Orr is on tonight. If you would like to speak a little bit more about it, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. I apologize. I'm perfectly happy to wait in line. I am currently in Belgium en route from South Africa to England. So I apologize for the lighting and potential signal issues. But if it's okay to jump in line, I do appreciate the time. Last year, I held this event in North Coventry. I worked with the township there, Erica Bettdorf, township manager, fire marshal, and I brought in goodwill from Pottstown Borough. The event was a huge success. We brought in merchandisers, we decorated the stores, did pop-up stores in the available retail space. We actually sold the event out and 2 local hotels within 48 hours of announcing. North Coventry Mall is under rebuilding, to say the least, for the coming year. And so I'd like very much to keep it in the greater Pottstown area. So talking with Chuck from Red Horse, attending their events over the last few years, I'd love to do it downtown. I've been working with Peggy Lee Clark, paid. It follows basically an existing format of working with local tourism boards to work with the township, which has worked well in other countries, but is a little more new for Pottstown. But I think we have the infrastructure. I'm a local resident, and so I'd look to close down High Street, again, those 4 blocks, east-west, 2 blocks north-south, on Sunday only. The idea being we would have local events tying in with companies Thursday onwards, which would have no impact on road closures, but then close down on the Sunday by 5 p.m. Sunday, roads reopen, everybody can go about their business and potentially travel home. Last year, we had people attending from California, Texas, Florida. With COVID, I did limit the numbers, and we did not have international visitors, whereas this year I have a meeting next week in Germany with the Volkswagen Group's marketing team about bringing cars over from Germany. So I hope the exposure will be nothing but positive. So that's the overall gist. I know that's a lot, sorry.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Orr?
This
The
is
dates.
Dan Glennon. I think that's a wonderful opportunity for Pottstown, and I appreciate what you're doing.
Okay, if you'll send the counselors details on this, we'll take action Monday evening.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Again, I apologize for the lighting and the rather side of the road joining.
Seems
Thank you for your time.
It's very interesting from where you're joining from to join our meeting, so thank you.
I know, right? Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks so much.
great. My apologies, Paul.
No apologies necessary.
So,
Actually, I was envious. I'd rather be where he is, but
In what he's driving?
of course. Ladies and gentlemen, you know me, I've been before you last summer extensively with regard to the issue of Lyft and Al's Heartwarming Center. You have a decision coming up. You know that we have an application pending before the zoning hearing board for a special exception. And there are essentially three things you can do. You can oppose it, you can do nothing, or you can express your approval. And I wanted to come tonight and urge you to express your approval. I don't want to belabor what Lyft is or what it does. I think I went through that this past summer at length. Rather, I would like to hopefully eliminate some potential confusion or misunderstanding about the organization. Homelessness is not a Pottstown problem. That Lyft's proposal, and I'm going to use Lyft rather than Al's Heartwarming Center, because it really is Lyft whose proposal it is. It's not a problem we can solve. Last summer, PAID appeared here, and they candidly demonstrated, and I think quite competently, that there's a concern in the borough with regard to homelessness. But doing nothing solves nothing. I've spoken to the chief of police, I've spoken to business leaders, I've spoken obviously to social agencies. It is an extensive problem here, not just ours. The problem exists all over the county, all over the state, all over the country. I want to urge you to do something to solve it. Al's Heartwarming Center is only a beginning. It's not the solution. But there are a couple of factors that I don't think you're aware of, and if you are, I apologize. But I think you need to be aware of them and understand them when you try and reach your decision. Number one, there is no walk-in and will be no walk-in at Al's Heartwarming Center proposed on North Charlotte Street. We have acquired, now we have 2 vans, and we actually go through town and we pick up the homeless and we transport them to Al's Heartwarming Center. We go where they are. Now, there are only 3 things that limit our ability to do that. 1, the number of beds we have. 2, the number of vans we have. And 3, and most important, the number of volunteers we have. I don't think you realize that our organization functions and survives on volunteers. People from this community who come in, who help feed, clothe, wash, cook, intake, supervise, drive, are volunteers, are citizens. And if you were at the dinner last Saturday, where I think over 150 people attended to honor Pottstown Lyft, I was touched to see the number of volunteers who were honored, who came forth and talked about how what they did benefited them, that it made them feel good. The second thing that I'm not sure you're aware of, we have a residency requirement. If you can't prove you're from here, we don't take you. You can't receive our service. Now, you may wonder, well, how can you prove that? Well, some have driver's license, some have social security cards, some have Pennsylvania identification cards, some have welfare registrations. We require identification that identifies them as a Pottstonian. So what happens? And it's a natural question. What happens if it's not a Pottstonian? Well, we use those vans to transport them from whence they cometh. I think we've gone as far as Abington to take somebody back who came to our center who wasn't from Pottstown, but was from Abington. Third, there seems to be some confusion some perception that we're somehow a social service agency. We're not. We don't provide any social services. I don't consider taking one of my fellow citizens into my home, allowing him to take a shower, giving him a pair of pants if he needs it, and giving him dinner, social service. We don't provide psychiatric care. We don't provide medical care. We don't provide health care. We don't provide religious counseling. We don't provide any service. Those services are available to them, and if they are in need and desire those services, we transport them to the service. Or, in our new facility, we hope we will have a room available where a doctor can come and see them. And by the way, that service is provided to us free of charge by Tower Health, a local organization participating in another local organization to help our homeless. Similarly, we get other services from other social organizations to help us, but we're not a social service organization, and we ourselves and our staff provide no social services. I also need to tell you, and I'm sure you're all aware, that the churches in Pottstown have for a number of years endeavored to provide food for the homeless and to provide food for the hungry. And they've done a very good job, but they're stretched. They're tired, they're worn out, and the hunger issue hasn't gone away. And they have asked us to consolidate the food program for our homeless, and we will do that in the new center. They will eat there, we will cook there, the churches will bring us the food. We already have an idea who's going to do the cooking and provide the service. And of course, we will get whatever licenses the state requires with regard to that. You also should know, and I only have 2 more facts for you, that the ministerium supports us. All of them. Your church, your church, your church, every single church in this community supports this organization and wants it approved. In fact, Reverend Vernon Ross is here, and if I'm mistaken, and he's the head of the ministerium this year, you can ask him whether that's true or not. So the last fact I think you need to know, and it's the fact nobody mentions, and let's be candid, let's be honest with ourselves. Our community has an issue with revenue. Our community fears the loss of properties off the tax rolls. And I understand that. I'm a local taxpayer. I don't want to see the tax rolls go down. If you approve this organization, we will pay every single dollar of taxes every year. And bear in mind, we're going to spend over $500,000 improving that property, and that's going to raise the assessment, and we will pay the taxes on the new assessed value every year. There will be no loss off the tax roll. There will be a gain. I hope, pardon me, in addition to what the mayor said about Omicron, the other gift that it gives is a continuing cough that for some reason they don't know what it is, when it goes away. It's not a gift worth getting. So the only other point I want to make with you is I think we too often in this community, out of fear, out of depression, look at the negative and not at the positive. We see ourselves as downtrodden. We see ourselves as deprived. And we act that way all too often. We see detriment in things rather than benefit. We look at a possibility of an organization like this, totally publicly, privately funded, that uses no tax dollars and looks to pay taxes. And we look at it as a detriment and not as a benefit. Why isn't it a benefit? Chester County is proud of Phoenixville's effort to address the homeless. They brag about it. They publicize it. It's a benefit to show that you're a community that cares, a community that looks after itself. We don't want to be like the other P that's in the news right now, who's indifferent to what people want and what communities need.
I don't think that's fair for you to say that.
I'm sorry?
I don't think that's fair for you to compare Putin to what we would have to decide for a small community.
I didn't compare it to it. I said,
other P are
we
you
don't
talking
want to
about?
be like the other P.
Exactly. And that's a parallel that I object to.
I respect your objection to it. Nevertheless, I don't want to see us denigrating the people that we need to serve, the homeless, because they are our citizens like every other citizen that votes in this community.
There's no comparison. None.
The nice thing about democracy, the great thing is that we're all entitled to our own opinions.
And that's fine.
That's right. I didn't come to debate Putin or anything of that nature. I came to ask us to reach out together to our better angels. For Pottstown, for all of us, for the least of us. And in doing so, I think we will be the best of us. We pledged to that flag tonight, everybody in the room, I hope. And we said we were one country, indivisible. And that means we respect each person, every person, and we look after every person. And that's all I ask you to do by seeking to approve the recommendation, to pass a recommendation next Monday in support of our application. Thank you. If there are any questions, I'm happy to address them.
Council?
I have a question.
Yes.
How many of the board members, let me get my notes here, hold on. How many board members live in Pottstown or own any businesses?
Actually, I'm sorry, can I?
Oh,
I'm not clear about something.
Oh,
Um,
go ahead.
This proposal that we got is for an adult daycare,
Correct,
correct?
correct. We
But
meet,
what you're doing now is a temporary homeless facility. So I'm confused, what you're asking for.
we're
maybe you
asking
can
the zoning
enlighten me.
hearing board, not you, to approve an adult daycare center. If you look at the definition of the ordinance that this
Yeah.
borough has for adult daycare center, we satisfy that definition. Adult daycare center definition allows overnights. It allows for treatment and intake of people that we service. It allows for people of the age that we service. We meet all of those requirements.
Okay.
Obviously, if we don't, the zoning hearing board won't approve it.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure before we start asking questions that we know whether we're asking questions for an adult daycare center or a
You
homeless
know,
shelter.
aren't those labels? It's not a function of how we label it. We've always said to you that we're a transition center. We take in the homeless, we keep them for a few days, we see to their service, and we take them on to where they can get housing.
I just want to make sure everybody has a clear understanding of what is being asked versus what is on the application. Go ahead,
Sorry, I
Ms.
think the
Lindsay.
application was clear that that's what we were trying to secure approval for.
Okay, we gonna talk at this tone right now, okay? All right, all right, all right, because, okay. So, back to my question. The board members, hold on now, I lost my spot. Okay, how many board members live in the borough or own any businesses in the borough? I'm just curious. Do you know?
The borough itself or the borough including the Pottsgroves?
The
The
borough.
borough, because that's where you're going to put the business, so I want to know the borough.
I honestly couldn't tell you. I've never asked them, I don't know.
Okay,
I own a business in Pottstown and I live in Pottsgrove,
okay.
Let's just,
Let's go,
Yeah,
okay, go ahead.
so
No,
I
go ahead.
can't tell you.
Thank you. So, Tom, where does Tom live?
846 East High Street.
Okay,
And he's the executive director.
okay. Carla,
Carla's here, you can ask her, I can't tell you.
you don't know where the board
Where she
members live?
lives? No,
How about the city?
no, I don't.
How about
I
Denver?
mean-
if
Neither
she's
can
here,
we.
she can speak to that. Would you like to speak?
Sure. I live in Earlville, Maryland.
Okay.
I work in
Okay. How about Dennis?
Dennis lives in Pottstown, to my knowledge.
George? Sue? Okay.
He said no. George Bell? No,
Oh, we lying?
he's a good guy, but he doesn't live in Pottstown Borough.
10 stories? Okay. How about Paul? You? Jerry? Jerry Williams?
I don't know.
Okay. I have more questions unless y'all want to.
Well, thank you, Mr. Prince. That was, I would say, far more cordial than the last time you addressed this. You remember? Actually, I asked you how many people will be, how many beds before. You didn't give me a straight answer. I was hoping you could clarify now. Then a number,
Now,
yeah,
or what we would like. 32.
32.
32.
Okay, how much did Alice Hart have? 6? Was it 6 beds for Alice Hart?
32.
We currently have 36 beds every night.
36.
Since November 1st, we've filled a bed over 3,400 times.
Okay, but for the Dash property at one time, how many people could be staying at the Dash property?
Ideally, at this point, it looks like a maximum of 40,
40.
maximum. May not be that high. It depends on how Dick Franz lays it out.
Okay.
I mean, candidly, at this point, I'm sure you can appreciate, we haven't gone to the expense
Okay.
of formal designs.
All right. It reminded me, how did you choose upon this particular property?
Mr. Desch offered to donate it.
Okay. So it wasn't like a search around the greater Pottstown area, it was just given to you for free? That's your criteria for accepting
Well,
it?
No, it's not my criteria. I mean, very frankly, if you're asking, I'm mindful of the ordinance and I'm mindful of your restriction on social service organizations. And I toured with George Bell personally. We spent probably 2.5 hours touring the areas of the town that conceivably could have had an office of some nature.
Also, are you aware that there actually is a children's daycare right across the street as well,
Right across the street from what?
from the Dash property?
No,
Okay.
no, I think it's down the block. You mean the
Yeah,
one that's in the
it-
basement of the church? Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And it just, I've had a lot of constituents very, concerned about this. In that part of town, quality of life is a very fragile thing. I mean, people put up with quite a bit between the trash and the noise and occasional crime. And how are you going to ensure there won't be quite, I mean, I was happy to approve Alice Hart. I'm glad it helped. But it certainly was not, incident-free. So what do I tell them when there's individuals urinating in their flower beds and also the possible problems like that?
Good question.
You know, it's been a growth experience. We started with nothing, and you're right. Initially, 6 months, maybe 9 months, I can't give you the exact cutoff, that we did have incidents and we did have some problems. Obviously, we were growing staff, we were growing organization, we were growing solutions. We were mindful of that, and I'm sure you'll recall that at the end of the first year, when it became a question of renewal, that was an issue that was raised and we addressed it. And at this facility, we will be even stricter because we're probably going to eliminate the smoking opportunity, which will eliminate the ability of them to go out at all.
So I'd hope so, because if you look at the property, it's not like a figurative expression saying it's like in somebody's backyard. It is literally in somebody's backyard. When you
In
look at
town?
it. Yeah, the Dash
Yeah,
property, yes. Mhm.
But you know, the property is L-shaped and there's an interior yard, which we're probably going to, in design, assuming we get approval, use for interior parking. But there's not going to be, as there was the first year and what created the problem at St. Al's, smoking. I mean, there were individuals that went outside to smoke because we did not allow smoking in the building, and there were some issues.
Because that'd be really unfortunate, because we have, the community garden right across the street, and as well as the tree garden, tree garden as well. That'd be, really upsetting to see that filled with trash and cigarette butts. So I'm glad.
Well, if they can't get out of the building, you won't see that happen
Okay,
from
good.
our
All right,
residents.
well, it's,
But
sure it is.
we're mindful of that. We're very, very concerned about it, just like you are. Listen, it's our desire to be a good citizen and to improve the community, not to make it worse.
Yeah.
And we're mindful of the problems that that area has had. We know about the murder that occurred on the corner. I mean, we understand that there's some risks in that location. And from our perspective, for our use, we don't think we exacerbate it. We think it minimizes it because we're internal. We're not going to be outside the building.
And I'd like to help, Mr. Prince. I really would. You know, we recognize that homelessness is certainly an issue, particularly in town. And we just want the best option for, the homeless and our constituents.
If not now, when?
Have you had a conversation with the residents right now that's near house? Heartwarming.
We have.
Have y'all have a talk? Because I know I've received some
We have
disturbing
several-
emails.
We have, and several intend to testify at the hearing in our favor.
Okay. So my question again is, have you had that conversation with those residents that are around there?
If you're asking me if we've walked around the streets addressing or asking each neighbor on any of the respective blocks in a 4-block, 8-block, 16-block area, what they think of it, the answer is no. We didn't take a survey there. We did take a survey of the businesses on High Street.
Mm-hmm.
And almost all were in favor of the application.
Can we get a copy of that survey?
Yes, we're going to introduce it at the hearing.
Perfect.
That was a big pack
400 of them over the summer.
that he was out.
We have other service providers, the cluster, Pottstown Learning Center, Mission First, Salvation Army. What would your relationship with them be, or what has it been?
Well, the Salvation Army has provided some resources. Cluster has provided, to my knowledge, some food. You know that they are the county designated representative for housing. We have used their resources for placement. We've received services from the hospital. As I said, we have dental services that have been offered. Most of the service agencies have provided assistance when and as needed and have offered to do whatever we needed. But because there's very little that we actually provide, it's not been a big issue. Most of our help and assistance has been from the ministerium and the churches. They've provided food, they provided cooking. That's been most of the interface, social interface. Other than with the county, that also supports our endeavor.
You've mentioned that Chester County is very proud of the work that Phoenixville Borough has done to help the homeless in its community. I understand that some of the counselors here and even maybe some of the members of LIF actually went out and visited with the people in Phoenixville and visited some of the facilities there to kind of take a look.
Well,
How does a
you know,
dormitory style facility that you're proposing compare to the one in Phoenixville as far as the size of the locations that they have, the number of locations that they have, and the locations in Phoenixville in proximity to their downtown?
Pales in comparison. If you want to give us the resources, we'll be happy to duplicate for Pottstown what Phoenixville has. But I don't think you want to provide that kind of money, and certainly the county isn't providing that kind of money. Ours is a fully volunteer, donation-funded organization. It's not like what occurs in Phoenixville, and I'm not belittling what's done there. It's an amazing effort.
No, we think it's a good example too. You mentioned
It's not us.
Okay. So
They are a full-service social provider.
how do you similar or different?
Well, just as I said, We don't provide any of the services that they do. We have, pardon me, the homeless, we pick up the homeless, we bring them to the shelter. We'll provide them with a meal, we provide them with a shower, we provide them with clothing. We don't provide them with counseling, we don't provide them with social services, we don't provide them with health services. The Phoenixville operation is a very integrated operation. It's sort of like a combination of us, the cluster, senior citizen housing here. I mean, you'd have to put 5 or 6 entities together to try and equate with what they do. They are a well-rounded, complete service-oriented facility for the homeless. And you're right, in multiple buildings.
And are they close to the downtown, or where are they in proximity to the downtown?
I haven't visited, I can't tell you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
As I understand it, they're
might be worth
in-
looking into.
They're in town.
Correct.
Yeah, multiple buildings.
Yeah.
Can I help answer?
So you started.
You know where it is?
Yeah.
Downtown, why don't you, tell him where it is?
So the emergency
is-
shelters in,
well,
my name's Tom
expression.
Nyhouse, 846 East High Street, also Executive Director of LIFT and House Heartwarming Center. The emergency shelters that Good Samaritan runs are in row homes in Phoenixville. They're not row homes that are directly next to each other either. They are a house, followed by 2 or 3 residencies, followed by another house that is run as an emergency shelter. And they have anywhere from 6 to 9 individuals in each of those respective emergency shelter homes each night.
I guess my question would be, if that's the model that we all look to, why are we not following that model? If it's just, I mean, and I understand the question of money, but this
would you like us to
this
do
has to be bigger than just the funding, right?
Where would you like us to do that? What 3 row houses in Pottstown would you like us to occupy? On what street? And then are you going to buy the buildings and donate them to us, and we'll renovate them?
This isn't my proposal, this is your proposal.
And that's right. And your proposal is not viable. What you're suggesting can't work. You're
What
looking at a
am I
homeless
suggesting?
population that far exceeds what we're able to handle. That's why I said we're not an ultimate solution to the homeless problem. We're only a beginning. But we have to start somewhere. And this is a somewhere that costs the town nothing.
I'm hoping you're aware that Pottstown is one of the original members of the Greater Pottstown Regional Planning. And in the beginning, Jack Wolf and I were the original members to that. It was a matter of dividing up zoning. So if you're looking for zoning relief now, it's available in the regional plan about 200 feet south of our southern border on Hanover Street. Our regional plan allows for it there.
Allows for what, Mr. President?
A homeless shelter.
I don't think it does.
It's in North Coventry.
But be that as it may, we
Yeah.
don't need it because your ordinance allows for an adult daycare special exception, and we meet the criteria.
All right,
The
so,
question's not whether we meet the criteria, because the zoning hearing board has to decide that.
all right, well,
The question is really what position the borough.
Well, I think we're getting off track. Let's save the legal arguments for the zoning hearing. If council has more questions, I'm sure you'll be happy to answer them. But again, zoning hearing board will look at the ordinance and listen to the evidence, and that's their job. So I don't think a debate with council is
Right.
productive on the zoning at this point.
sorry. Well, okay.
May I say something?
I'll finish. You came starting asking for us to give relief for Al's Warming Center. It was during the pandemic. It was a bitter winter, and we were sympathetic and empathetic to that. And then you asked for an extension because the diocese wouldn't allow you to stay there through the summer for whatever reason. And now I'm with your proposal and what I'm hearing, you're going to transition and grow into a 24/7 adult daycare center?
No,
No, okay. Then help me understand that.
I trust you can appreciate that what sometimes directors want is not what boards approve or authorize.
Okay,
We're quite clear, we want to provide a facility in the winter and in the heat of the summer. We may operate between the two, between the winter and the summer, maybe a total of 9 months a year. That's what we're looking at.
okay. And to grow from a homeless shelter to a daycare, what process are you gonna have to go through? What has to be done? I don't know, I've never done it.
One of the problems I have, and I don't know how to
You know, is it?
candidly avoid this confusion by labeling it, and we say, well, this is a homeless shelter, and here you're looking at a daycare center.
Yes.
They're labels. I think it's easier and better to look at the service of what the use is, and the use is the same. What we're doing is what that definition of adult daycare center provides. But as Chuck said, you know, that's a legal issue for the zoning hearing board. We're not looking in terms of beds to be any larger. And frankly, the building really wouldn't admit of maybe 40, maybe. But the current drawings that I've seen are the same 32, 34, no change in that regard. One of the problems we've had, and I can't say that it isn't going to occur again, and neither can any of us. When COVID struck, we had to move the women out. We couldn't keep them together in the same premises. And that created a financial nightmare that the county stepped in and saw to it that the women, the homeless women were housed at the local hotel. So we don't know what may happen. I don't know what the winter temperature is going to be next year. What I do know is that with climate change and what's occurring, it's not getting better, it's getting worse. Whether you're talking about floods in the summer, heat in the summer, cold in the winter, weather is changing. I don't know what it's going to be. But what I do know is whether it's 28 or 14 or 42, that's cold. And if you're living outside, especially if you're ill-clothed, and if you're trying to get by in a sleeping bag and you don't even have a tent, that's not good quarters, and that's not healthy. You know, it's easy to turn a blind eye and a deaf ear and pretend it doesn't exist or that it's not there. We would have appreciated it if you had amended the ordinance and we would have been able to stay at St. Al's. But St. Al's has told us in no uncertain terms that we cannot continue there. So Mr. Desch was kind enough, and I mean that sincerely, to offer to donate a nice property that could be converted and improved, that could suit our needs. Other than that, we go away.
Okay, but to grow into this, you're gonna need, what, licensing, certifications of people?
We will get whatever is necessary, you know that, the ordinance requires it.
So that you have no one certified yet?
Listen, the ordinance is not easy. I don't want to violate what Chuck said, but if you look at the terms of the ordinance, for instance, you can't have a meeting of more than 3 people within the premises. If it's a meeting of staff and there's 4, you have to go somewhere else to have the meeting. There are all kinds of restrictions, and we're going to comply with them.
Okay,
You know, we understand that the kitchen, if we have a kitchen, it's going to have to be licensed. We understand that the dining room will have to be licensed. Whatever licenses are required, we're going to have an elevator, hopefully, it has to be licensed. Fire escapes have to be licensed. Building has to be inspected and satisfy building code. Okay. Whatever is required, we will do. And if we can't do it, we won't be there.
all right.
But give us the chance. Let us try. That's
And what
all.
about your 501c?
We are.
Yeah, you are. It's for a homeless shelter? Does that remain the same?
The original focus of LIFT was twofold, hasn't changed. It was the warming center. It's not a homeless center, it's a warming center. We're a transition warming center. And we really wanted to, initially, we wanted to have a facility that would allow various nonprofits, whoever, wherever, to have an office facility, much like WeWork, where they could come in and we would provide centralized printing and copying and computer service and internet service. And we've had to, put that off for the time being. Someday we hope to do that.
Okay.
Those were the two original goals of LIFT when it was created by two Pottstown residents, one of whom has passed on, Mr. Altschul.
What about the county?
I have a question, just a clarification, if you would. I looked at your application and the notice. It does refer to offices. What do you envision the offices would entail as part of the adult daycare center?
The office that we're contemplating is an office for LIFT on the third floor. So the office is not technically a part of the Alice Hart Warming Center.
Okay, so it will be separate then.
Essentially, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I mean, frankly, Chuck, you know me well enough that I don't try and deceive or obfuscate. If we have to have, if Alice Hart feels that they want to have a Christmas party for all the volunteers, or they want to have a meeting that involves more than 3 people, they're going to have to do it on the third floor in LIFT's quarters. And the third floor, by the way, is not that large, but.
I just wanted to know what the office use was, that's all. Thanks.
Yeah, that's it. They're tired of meeting in my office.
You mentioned you.
May I make?
Yeah, go ahead, Mayor. Go ahead.
Sorry. Unless I'm missing something here, something unspoken, or I don't know what all the hostility is about, but unless I'm missing something, I fully support the zoning relief that LIFT is requesting. This problem is not going away. And I think giving them an option to go somewhere else, unless you're giving them a building, that's not an option. In addition, they have agreed to pay property taxes. So if a church went in there, they're not on the tax roll. They're agreeing to pay property taxes for that building. And I think this is a much better option than what is happening now. I went to a meeting the other day and it was evening. I was walking down High Street and of course one of our street lights wasn't working, so it was dark. I tripped over a body and fell on the sidewalk. Somebody was sleeping and they were sticking out a little bit, and you know me, I'm klutzy, and I mean, thankfully I didn't hurt the person, but I mean, that's not a good option for them. It's not a good option for them to use the planters on High Street, the water that collects in them, to brush their teeth and shower. So if you're worried about perception, this cleans it up for you, Pottstown. I just don't see, I know, there's a stigma behind it, but it's already there and it's on the street. So I just don't see why you can't approve this. That's all I have to say.
If I may, I should mention, consistent with what the mayor is saying, that the police department, the Pottstown Police Department, we don't take it from the Pottsgroves. The Pottstown Police Department, when they find somebody and they pick them up, they bring them to us. The only vehicles that deliver people to us other than our own are the Pottstown Police Department. And what they had to do previously was pick them up, take them to the jail, hold them in the jail, feed them in the jail, all at taxpayer expense. So if you ask the chief, I think the chief would tell you that the police department feels that we provide an important service for the community.
So that would not be the case in the daycare, right? Because you don't accept walk-ins.
sorry?
This would not be the case for the daycare center or the Dash property because you don't accept walk-ins. Isn't that what you just said earlier in the presentation?
No walk-ins.
Yeah.
The police department.
I would consider that a walk-in.
With a portico.
Do they have an appointment?
I'm sorry?
Would they have an appointment? That's what I consider a
Actually,
walk-in.
This year, actually, the police, they don't walk people in either. They typically
They
call me.
drive.
They call me. I answer the phone. We talk about who the person is, whether we have a bed available, and if we do, they drive them in. So yes, they do have an appointment.
Okay.
I'd like to say something too. This is clearly a difficult issue, and one thing I do have to go with the mayor on, and as recent as this week, I have gotten calls about the homeless. I have seen the tents. We do have an issue. I will not dispute that. And like you said, it's everywhere. I have to think about what was said tonight, but I do appreciate you coming to speak with us. It's hard to get up in front of, 5, 6, 7 people and plead your case and give a presentation. So I appreciate that. It doesn't fall on deaf ears. This is something I've been thinking about for some time. Like, again, I've seen the tents. I've gotten calls. So I will not dispute that this is an issue everywhere. Again, it's something I need to continue to think about. But I thank you for coming and standing your ground and to continue to find a way to help our homeless. So that's not saying I know what I'm going to do, but I just want to say thanks. That's all.
At some point, there was a task force to take a look at this situation, and I think your director was included in that. How does this proposal go along with the task force's recommendations?
The task force never reached any viable recommendations.
Oh.
Paid, created that task force, initiated it, asked us to participate. We did. There have been some meetings. Tom participated in those meetings.
Okay.
But they didn't come anywhere near addressing a solution.
Did you run this proposal by the task force before deciding on your own to move it forward?
I was never invited to participate or talk to the task force.
Well, your
nor
director was.
Nor was our board. The director is on the task force.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, Tom, did you review this proposal with the task force to see if it made sense for the community before putting it before the council?
I had plans to, but the last 3 have been rescheduled, and there's no date for the next one.
Okay.
So it didn't seem like anybody on the task force that was making agendas or meetings was taking it seriously.
Of course, that's just Tom's perception.
That's my opinion.
But, yeah, I think that these are difficult issues, as Councilor Banny had said, and they require a lot of input, a lot of dialogue, and a lot of thought. And it's something that can't necessarily always be rushed. You mentioned some of the requirements for the people that you bring in. You don't require them to get treatment. But did Al's Heart require drug and alcohol and criminal background screening from its tenants prior to admitting them?
No.
We do.
No, we do not. We check Megan's Law, and we check active public warrants.
Well, that's a criminal check.
Yeah. But we do not do drug and alcohol check or testing.
But you understand that substance abuse is one of the main underlying issues of homelessness.
Correct, which is why we don't.
So you don't test and you don't provide any treatment for the underlying issues.
Oh, we connect and coordinate with treatment providers.
Okay.
We do not ourselves provide treatment.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I thought the question was
We
whether or
make
not
we make the service available.
Okay. So what happens if you said you do criminal background check?
We do
You
active
warrant
check
search.
and Megan's Law checks.
And what happens when you find one of those?
A Megan's Law check, we do not let the person in.
Okay.
Because of an incident that we had last year, which I'm sure you're all aware of. And we haven't had any issues with active warrants that were ignored. If needed, we'd call the police, but it's not, we don't regularly find that.
So originally, you weren't running those searches until you had an incident? Then you started running the Megan's Law searches? Is that my understanding?
Mr.
Yes.
Keller, it's part of the growth process. You know, as we came from nothing, there were a lot of things we learned we had to do to get to the point we're at.
I understand that. And I also understand that you're primarily running with volunteers, which is understandable. How many people do you actually have paid on staff?
11?
No, he said paid.
Paid,
11.
okay. And what do you think you'll need to do for the new facility as far as staffing? Can you kind of, do you have a program of you're gonna need, X number of staff members, you're gonna need X number of kind of support positions? Do we have that, any idea what that looks like?
We know that we're going to need somebody to run the kitchen, and we've talked with somebody. We think we know who will be willing to do that, and obviously we'll need 1 or 2 volunteers to see to service in the dining room, which is more than what we have now. We recognize there may be some additional staffing needs. Frankly, we have more volunteers and more people that are willing to help and offer service than we have places to use them.
That's a good problem to have, right?
If you exist, it's a great problem to have, yes. It just shows the dedication of our citizenry to helping each other.
Right, right.
Started 2 years ago, and we granted permission to use St. Al's. And then you asked for an extension, and we granted that. Why weren't you proposing an adult daycare center then?
Well, as you know, I came before you on several occasions last summer asking you to give leave to your solicitor to prepare an amendment to the ordinance that would have directly authorized our existence and use of the building on North Charlotte Street. Council refused to authorize the solicitor.
And were you asking for adult daycare then?
I was asking for something much larger and more complex.
Oh,
I wanted a full service shelter for the homeless. But we never got to that point.
okay. All right, my confusion.
But just to be clear, Borough did offer other locations that would probably be more tenable.
There's no
that
other
correct?
location that's tenable, available, meets the ordinance, and/or that we could afford. And I went and looked. I drove up and down Industrial Highway, which is an area you have authorized under the ordinance. I looked on South Hanover Street. Actually, I looked at the old fire station and then found out that's only available for a motel or a hotel. I even contemplated the upper floors of the old Security Bank building and the upper floors of the other bank building across the street, which are technically authorized and available for hotels, but they are not available. There is no facility anywhere near that's available for anything near what we want to use. Though the entire TTN is authorized for adult daycare service.
Okay.
Believe me, Mr. Keller, I tried. I would be happy to find a place that is accessible, that doesn't create a problem for us in terms of picking up the homeless and treating them here in the community where they live. And we just can't, it's just not doable. Listen, this is here. This is an opportunity. It satisfies the need that PAID has, and I know you're on the board of PAID. It satisfies the need. And it costs the borough nothing. It gives the borough revenue. It's no different than what you've authorized for 2 years, except it'll be in our own building where you'll get tax revenue and we'll have a better facility and be able to provide a better service. That's all we're trying to do. We're trying to reach out a helping hand to the helpless and the homeless. That's it, in a nutshell. For the benefit of the borough, it makes us better. It makes us look better.
We hear your sincerity, and should this not be approved, what would your plan be?
We have no plan. We close. We're going to close anyway, because as you know, we end
Right.
April
Exactly.
There's no extension.
Right.
Even if the zoning hearing board approves it, it'll take us till the following summer probably to get the building done at a minimum, maybe longer. So we know we're out for at least a year.
Got it.
And there's nothing we can do about that. There just isn't.
Are there any other facilities of this nature, let's say within kind of the 8 municipality region, the Pottsgroves, the Coventrys? No.
There actually isn't, if you look at the shelters.
So there must not be homeless people in those
Oh,
municipalities.
Mr. Keller, come on. You know, you're being trite. You know there's homeless. You know there's homeless in the Pottsgroves. There's homeless in every municipality around here.
So if you.
Do you want us to handle theirs?
If you.
Give us a bigger building.
If you
Give us
open
money.
this.
We'll do it.
If that, you answered my question. Thank you.
But that's not what we're doing, and that's not where we're gonna be, and not what we're proposing.
My question was going to be, with the lack of the facilities in the region, don't you think that you, if you are opening a facility here, are going to be under a lot of pressure to take in the homeless from more affluent communities, in which communities they have refused to try to do anything to address the problem? And is that fair to Pottstown taxpayers?
I've regularly turned people away. I've regularly turned police departments away who have called me with someone.
We've turned the Pottsgrove Police Department away. We will not accept anyone. When we say Pottstown, we mean Pottstown.
And as difficult as that is, I do it because it's for the importance of the bigger picture and the long-term goals that we have.
But you just said that give me the money, give me the ability, we'll take them in from all over. You just said that.
Mr. Keller, I would like to see Pottsgrove have a facility. I would like to see all of the communities have a facility and address their homeless.
We would too.
What I was saying to you was, in answer to your question about the need for the other communities, that if we had a facility that could do that, I didn't say this facility couldn't do it under any circumstances, this proposed facility. But would I love to see a facility in this area, wherever that might be, that could do that, funded by those townships, so that they absorb their own cost for their own community citizens? Absolutely. I'm a citizen of Lower Pottsgrove, Pottstown property owner. Would I like to see Lower Pottsgrove, which is wealthier than we are, have its own facility? Absolutely. Do I think it's a shame they don't address the problem? Absolutely. We're not unique. I don't come before you begging for this facility because it's Pottstown and because for some reason we're the community that should be doing it. The opportunity is here. I think the same thing applies to all the adjacent municipalities. North Coventry at least has the assistance of Chester County, and they, I assume, from what I understand, they go to Phoenixville. That's fine, but we don't have that. We don't have county support of that nature. We don't have a county facility in the western Montgomery County that addresses this problem.
So the county's not involved with this proposal?
No.
But they've hired somebody to oversee this, is that?
No.
No?
Nobody oversees us.
Okay,
No.
got it.
Would that the county would give us assistance, but, you know.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just have one more question for council or anyone. Justin, is there something that council wants to go into Desh's building aside from this? Is there a better alternative that everybody else is looking at? Or is there a business that's been proposed to come in? Is that why there's
Used as storage for a landscaping business.
No,
As
it's
it is
been,
now.
the building's been effectively abandoned. I'm using that word euphemistically. I understand for more than 6 years, or at least that's what a neighbor told me. It's a storage facility right now. It's filled with equipment and wood and has been unused for, according to the neighbors, 6 years at least. He had it for sale for a good while, but apparently there was no offer. And in fact, the houses across the street are for sale.
Yeah, go ahead, Counselor Pauls.
Pause. Don't say Joe.
Whether we put labels on this or not, or describe it as a homeless shelter or an adult daycare, that is mute, because we are talking about human beings. Not a building, not a shelter, not a daycare, human beings. We have to look at this as Christians. Mr. Prince, will there be a certain time of day that the people have to be inside?
Yes.
So they're off the street, nobody can see them.
Yes.
Just
as
like
there is-
Phoenixville, correct?
And just as there is now. Yep.
Okay.
We anticipate not allowing them
And my
outside.
My question for council is, why are we so hard on this, but we're not fighting the halfway houses where people are sitting outside throwing cigarettes out in the street, or people are doing drugs when they're supposed to be there rehabbing? I don't get, we're not looking at this as Christians or humans. These people are Pottstonians who are down on their luck or lost everything, and they are human beings, and there's children that have no say in the matter of what happens to them that are involved in this also. We got to look at it that way. Not as whether, oh, it makes the high street look ugly, or, oh, this, it's going to destroy this business, that business. It's not going to destroy any business, no matter what anybody says. If the business gets destroyed, it's because they failed or they gave up, not because of someone standing on a corner. I really wholeheartedly hope that everybody, which I know probably won't, but everybody looks at this as these people are human, not a label as homeless or a daycare. Please, I'm begging you. And that's all I have for now. But again, why are we fighting something like this and not trying to fight the halfway houses?
We discussed
Everybody
that
in
several
town
times,
can-
Michael, but maybe you weren't at the meeting when we discussed the difference between a homeless shelter and a halfway house or a group home.
Halfway houses are protected class.
Well, halfway houses don't have to jump through hoops like this poor guy's going to have to do.
I have a question. What is the schedule and hours for the,
For our current program,
well, for the proposed program, sorry? Would you,
that's, it would look similar to what we're doing now, but obviously it's not written out or determined.
oh, okay.
We haven't designed it yet because until we know that the building's available, it's an exercise in futility. We have limited resources, limited staff, and we run a pretty bare bones organization.
I'm good.
Anyone else?
Oh, he did.
We'll take public
And-
comments.
Yeah, Dan, just to bring this full circle, I think Paul opened with this. Council knows there are options for Monday night, and the hearing
The
is
yellow paper.
Tuesday.
I'm sorry, Chuck.
So council's options are to basically take no position and allow the zoning hearing board to decide.
Mhm.
Council can oppose it, participate in the hearing and oppose it, or council can participate and support the application. And that will be your decision Monday night when the matter's listed on the agenda. You can decide how you want to participate or not participate in the hearing. Another possible suggestion is to recommend conditions to the zoning hearing board if the zoning hearing board would decide to grant the relief. Certainly, the zoning hearing board would at least pay attention to anything that you said as far as conditions, if that were a direction you wanted to go. Obviously, that's up to the 7 of you to decide how you want to vote on Monday night. And it will be listed in a generic form, so you can debate it further Monday night if needed. And just one more thing, we do have the ability to discuss this in executive session. It is litigation, and I'm suggesting we discuss it briefly tonight, and we may want to discuss it on Monday night prior to any vote as well.
But I'm not coming back Monday night to harangue you. I'm done.
Okay.
And you weren't invited back, Paul. Your night was tonight.
Thank God.
Okay,
I have
hearing,
to save my voice for the 15th. Thank you.
hearing nothing more from council, we'll list that for action for Monday evening.
Are we excused, Mr. President?
You're excused. And all should know there will be an executive session tonight discussing litigation. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, number 11 is a resolution to DCNR.
Please sit. Please sit. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is for the reorientation and replacement of playground equipment at primarily Chestnut Street Park. Also to improve ADA access to some of the play areas. We'll include some tree trimming, some basketball court resurfacing at South Street Park as well. So we are requesting $86,000 from DCNR. We're matching that amount for 2024 with $60,000 coming from the cash capital savings and $26,000 from the regular Parks and Recs budgeted expense. However, we're also going to be seeking matching funds through upcoming grants as well.
Very good. So we'll address that Monday evening. And then 12 is the resolution, the 2022 local share account.
Yes, this grant requires no match, and we are seeking $1 million to convert 1,820 streetlights to LED lights and also install more security cameras at the intersection to address quality of life issues.
Okay, we'll do that Monday. 13 is the resolution, the 2022 flood mitigation program.
Yes, this request is for $500,000 to be utilized for stormwater arch repairs at 1200 High Street. This is being coupled with our previous grant awards for arch repairs, and we will also be seeking another grant program to cover the remainder of the match for this as well.
Good, we'll do that Monday. 14 is the Montgomery County Cdbg application for stormwater improvements.
Yeah, so if you recall, phase one of this project is to install additional stormwater inlets and piping to address sump pump stormwater discharges into the street. The first phase will include the 200 block of Grace Street. The second phase, which is the grant that we're seeking permission to move forward with, will be to continue these efforts under a second phase to install inlets and piping at Nightingale and Charlotte, Warren between Prospect and Wilson, and several other locations that we're trying to determine. We'll be requesting approximately $200,000 for this grant as well. And as a part of the grant, the borough's match is the engineering for the project.
Okay, would this include any Franklin Street situations?
That would be a question for Mr. Yerger. I know there's a couple locations that he's still trying to hone in on.
Good.
So Mr. Yerger, you can update Dan later on
Whenever.
whether or not Franklin Street locations are included.
Okay. And we'll do that Monday. 15 is the property maintenance code amendment. Mr. Garner?
Yes, thanks, Dan. I think Borough Council's aware that every 3 years, the International Code Council updates the standard building codes. It's been some time since the borough has updated both its property maintenance code and its fire code. Those codes are not part of the statewide building code, so we're still operating under 2009 editions. In speaking with Mr. Place, we're working on updating both the property maintenance code and the fire code to come under the 2018 edition, which we believe is appropriate. We're seeking authorization from council to prepare and advertise adoption of both the property maintenance code and the international fire code to update those to the 2018 editions. There will be no substantive changes to any of the codes other than incorporating the new codes and whatever new standards the International Code Council felt was appropriate. Mr. Place believes it is an appropriate time to update those two codes. And our fire chief as well, I might add.
Very good. And we'll approve that Monday evening. 16, Take It Outdoors Parks and Recreation Agreement. Mr. Garner.
Yes, I believe council remembers last fall, we had a presentation from Take It Outdoors in conjunction with the Schuylkill River Greenway. The organization, a nonprofit, wanted to relocate to Pottstown, use a small portion of Riverfront Park for their kayaking and canoe rental operations. At that time, you guys nodded your head and said, go forward. We're at the point where, with Mr. Lenhart's help, we've come to a memorandum of understanding or an agreement with Take It Outdoors. I believe that you guys have it in your packet. It's a one-year agreement. It would provide for the ability for borough residents to have certain borough days where the free services provided. Otherwise, the organization would maintain their area of the park where they would set up, and it would seem to be a win-win for everyone. And we're asking for council approval of the memorandum of understanding. I believe Take It Outdoors has already approved it. So if you say it's a go, we'll have a kayaking canoe operation in our park this season.
Very good. We'll approve that Monday night. Okay, 17, Red Horse Motoring Club car shows.
Yes, so they are seeking to return again. They will have the same street closure as last year. Dates will be May 7th, June 4th, July 2nd, August 6th, and September 3rd.
Very good. Any questions on that? They've done well before. Okay, we'll approve that.
I know we have some of the operators of the car show here. Is there anything that you need to add, Mr. Everett?
We're just very excited for the season to be upon us, happy to be back, and hopefully we can keep bringing more people to the downtown and sharing the growth that we've all created here in Pottstown.
Thank you.
Good. All right, we'll list that for Monday. 18 is the Memorial Day Parade.
Correct. So this will be on High Street, Bailey to Manatawny on May 30th, 2022.
Good. The 19 is the Automobile Show Display.
Yep, and that was covered by Mr. Orr, September 4th. He's asking for the closure of the 1 to 300 blocks and the 100 north and south blocks of Hanover.
Very good. We'll list that for Monday. 20 is the Fête en Blanc on High Street.
Yes, so this will be the following weekend after the Red Horse Car Show and the Mr. Orr's Car Show. The following weekend will be the Fête. So there'll be a lot going on those 2 weeks. But they are also going to be, in addition to asking to close High Street between York and Hanover, they are also going to request the use of alcohol in Smith Family Plaza. Peggy is going to be on Monday night, and under her presentation, she can give more detail and answer any questions about this event.
Okay, I did talk with her about expanding it. I think we were limited to 500 last year, and we talked about maybe expanding to 750.
Yep, I think that's why they want, the extra space on the street to be able to do more tables.
I know people that couldn't get tickets. They just didn't act quickly enough. Okay, so we'll list that for Monday. 21's the bid awards, the ultra sulfur diesel.
Right, they'll open on the 14th, actually, not the 4th. Yeah, that's a misprint.
Oh, the
They'll open on
14th.
the 14th, actually.
Got it. How about board vacancies? Civil Service Commission, there's a vacant term to expire, and we have one applicant.
Yes.
That's all? Okay. And for HARB, 2 5-year terms, we only have one applicant for that.
Yes, Mr. Franz would like to be reappointed. Ms. Durr wishes not to be reappointed.
Okay.
So we still have an opening.
Still need one.
Mhm.
Very good. We'll address that. HARB 944 East High Street. We'll take a look at that for approval.
Yeah, so this one seems pretty straightforward. Harb took a look at it. They're recommending a porch replacement using in-kind lumber for the deck and a fiberglass support columns designed to match the period of the originals.
Right. Okay.
The other ones are administratively approved.
Right. So we'll list all of that. And now we have time to listen to our citizens.
Okay.
Might remind them 3 minutes.
say something, my friend.
All right, first we have Julian Francis, 249 Chestnut Street, Pottstown. And just a reminder, everyone will have 3 minutes.
So I had prepared notes, but I'm not going to get into that. I just want to comment on, I live at 249 Chestnut Street. My wife Amy and I have lived there since 1996. I've been living in Pottstown for almost 30 years. When the gyms closed down during COVID, I started walking around my neighborhood. And as I'm walking out, I pick up trash in the morning. And I just want to comment that, I live at 200 block of Chestnut, so when I walk right around St. Al's, and I pick up a lot of trash. I routinely have a bag, and I empty it like 3 times on my walk. Like I walk 4 miles a day. So, and you wouldn't know it, but there's a lot of trash. There's trash in our neighborhood. And I also want to make a comment that we have Rowan Alley behind our house, and we've had people using it as a public bathroom, defecating behind our house. So I just want council to take that, into consideration when you're thinking about what was discussed here tonight. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Vernon Ross Jr., 575 North Kime Street.
Okay. Good evening. Evening. My name is Vernon Ross Jr., and I serve as the president of the Pottstown Ministerium of Faith Communities. I also serve as the pastor of Bethel Community Church, located at 575 North Kime Street. And I have served in Pottstown, be 22 years come July. So I've been here for some time now, and really appreciate being in the borough and serving here. I wanted to first thank you for the opportunity to come before you tonight. We've discussed the matter of homelessness and shelter for the unhoused. And so I come tonight primarily as a result, today was the second Wednesday of the month, and the Pottstown Ministerium, we meet every second Wednesday. And after much discussion today, it was clear, and I think it was made clear tonight, that there is some confusion, is the word I would use, around what is being proposed and what needs to be done. I heard tonight, warming center, unhoused, homeless shelter, adult center. So I think there is a lot of terminology being used. So the ministerium thought it was best for us to clarify our message relative to a facility in Pottstown. We do admire the efforts that LIFT has made to address this issue, and we know some very positive outcomes. The faith community is keenly aware of the issues and challenges that we face relative to the unhoused in Pottstown, but they made it very clear, and as president, I need to convey that if the building proposed is not the right building, then we wanted you to know that we want to be a partner, and we want to collaborate and have a very collective approach for a place that is accessible and feasible that supports the unhoused members of residents of Pottstown. Mm-hmm. And so I've come to be very clear. We definitely, applaud the work of LIFT, and we know the outcomes, as I said, but the homeless is not going to go away. It is a real problem in Pottstown, and if not the proposed building, then please allow us to partner with you to find a place for those who are unhoused in Pottstown. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amy Francis, please. Hi.
How are you all? Good. So first I want to say that I really do appreciate what they're doing a lot. I don't think there's anybody really that feels as though helping people find housing for an evening is really important. I think that I want to be clear about that. I also want to be clear that I've been around town a long time, and sat on the school board for quite a while, and have heard more than a few times that they're not going to, they won't do any taxing. I mean, they're going to pay all the taxes. And if there's not something that is written for infinity, I don't believe it, because things change a lot. And I don't understand really how a nonprofit like this that runs just on volunteers will continue to be able to afford paying taxes, so I don't understand that part of it at all. And I certainly don't understand the part about it being an adult daycare center. All of those things aside, that's semantics, and I'm not gonna really get hung up on that. I just personally live in that neighborhood, and I don't think it's a good spot. I think it's a landlocked building. It is part of the historic district, so I would hope that anything that's done is done with integrity, although I don't find a lot of historic value in that property, truthfully. And I have to say, just on behalf of people that might not be Christian, I found the statements by Mr. Paul, is it Paul? Pauly?
Paulus.
Paulus. I think that's really offensive. People who aren't Christian also believe that it's important to do the right thing. So I feel like I have to just speak up a little bit about that. I think I'm going to just leave a little bit for the zoning hearing, because I think that that's probably what most of my concerns are about. I do want to say that Pottstown people are really good. They're really generous. They are not people that sometimes, that I feel like we're kind of being made to be right now, demonized. It's just not a fair thing. And I think sometimes it's the presentation that might be getting the kickback. And I also feel like Pottstown's bullied a little bit and taken advantage of in this way. So I think it's very, very good that you all are doing your due diligence on this. And on behalf of the community, thank you, the taxpayers. We really appreciate it. It's very, very important to us, because we are the ones who are paying the bills, as you all do, right? Anybody who's voted in official. So thank you. I do think there's probably a better place than this, and I hope that it gets resolved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, Steve Everett, please.
I guess I'll just start by thanking everybody for being here, having us here. Thank you for making your efforts on getting High Street repaved and lit, and that's adding a lot of positive growth for the downtown. I came to Pottstown in 2017, bought multiple buildings, opened multiple businesses, went through the requirements of permitting and approvals, and had to be very clear of what I was going to do in those times. Tonight's the first time I've actually heard what Lyft's goal is, and it seems inconsistent with what they've applied for versus what they're actually asking for. I have no problem helping, or the desire of helping people that are homeless. However, what they're asking for is a senior shelter. But it's really, what they're asking for is a homeless shelter that's 24 hours with support systems, which would be great, but it's just not the right location, in my opinion, for that area. A couple questions I couldn't ask were, who are the people that they're bringing in, the homeless people? Where are they actually from? Is there a log kept? We heard testimony today that people on the board aren't even from the borough. In fact, they had no clue where the people on their board were from, so do they actually know where the people that they're housing and helping are from? In 2017, we came here, I witnessed a lot of homelessness. A lot of those same faces are present on the streets today, but among them are a lot more homeless people than I've ever witnessed in Pottstown since I've been here in 2017. So yes, the problem's grown, but in my opinion, they are not Pottstown people that became homeless that are on our streets. They have migrated here from other neighboring towns that weren't helping them, and it's not our responsibility to help them. I think if we could, as a group, come up with a place and a system and a group of people that could actually support them for their needs, like Phoenixville, that would be awesome, but I don't think that this is the right group or the right way to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. April Barkazzi, please.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for having me. I was here last time. You may remember I was quite emotional, and it was tough to get through my comments. And I'm here again asking Council, I'm asking you to oppose this application, not to be neutral and not to support this application. I too came here in 2017. My husband grew up here. So I followed the boy, I guess is the story that sometimes people will tell. And what I came here for was the opportunity, and the opportunity is built on a foundation of zoning. And zoning is not emotional, even though we talked about that last time, and I was quite emotional about zoning. Zoning is legal. That is why it's a legal proceeding. That's why you have solicitors involved, and it involves everybody doing their part to make sure that the rules are followed. I too have to follow the rules here in the borough. I own 2 businesses here, and I look forward to seeing more businesses come here because they all play by the same rules, which is the rules that you have in your zoning ordinance. To be literal, we have language that is definitions for purposes. And I've studied the definition of adult daycare, and that's not what was discussed here. So we have an application that isn't even valid as far as I'm concerned. None of the special exception requirements for adult daycare would even apply because we're not talking about adult daycare. We're not talking about a facility that I heard that was going to be age priority to 60s and over. With physical ailments that need to be addressed through services. So that's not the application that we heard here tonight. So I'm asking you again to oppose this application for the sake of the residents in this community, for the sake of the businesses in this community, and for the sake of the community overall. I'm a Christian and I do want to help the homeless. I don't want to forsake all others for that purpose. So thank you.
Thank you. Terry Fetterman, please.
Thanks for this opportunity to share some thoughts. I served as a borough councilor for a bunch of years ago. I was a planning commission member. I was the president of the Pottstown Historic Neighborhood Association. I own a house on Hanover Street. I own a business on High Street. I've had kids go through the school systems. So I'd argue I'm a vested fella here in the community. And I'd say as a Christian, I'm opposed to this location. But as some of those other hats that I wear, I certainly support this effort, just not in that location. I think everyone here has shared some relevant community feelings, and I think there is a solution, but just not at that location. So I hope you do whatever you can to oppose this application for, relief. But we can also support their effort in finding a better location for their facility. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tom Nyros.
Thank you. So on the location thing, the people that are here opposing the location, regardless of where the location is, then those people, those neighbors will be here opposing the location. So I don't think that's a viable solution to find another location. I think that's just something to kick the rock down the road a little further. As far as the log and identification, we do keep a log of that. Everyone that comes in, we require proof of Pottstown eligibility. We have copies of everyone's proof of Pottstown eligibility who stays in our program for more than 2 nights. We don't plan to be open for 24 hours again. like Mr. Prince was saying, overnight warming center during the day, allow office space for other organizations and agencies to provide the services that they already provide in Pottstown to the people that they are already providing them to in Pottstown, just in a more coordinated fashion so that these people can get the services that they're seeking and that the agencies are seeking to provide. We are not primarily volunteer. We have 98 scheduled volunteer hours every week, plus an additional anywhere from 25 to 75 volunteer hours that are filled every week. We have 2 paid staff members at our facility every night that are trained in CPR, AED, Narcan, de-escalation, and mental health crisis. We work with many different county agencies, county organizations, Montgomery County Mobile Crisis, and other local organizations and agencies that provide healthcare, that provide drug and alcohol treatment, that provide mental health services, that provide domestic violence abuse services. And, you know, everybody knows how many services are here in Pottstown. We don't want to add a service. We want these services to be more efficient at what they're doing. And we're trying to facilitate and coordinate that while at the same time providing people with a warm or at least safe place to stay if it's already warm outside. Anybody who goes into the park knows that there's tent cities everywhere. There are 4 that I'm aware of. That's because we have 36 beds. There are over 95 homeless people here in Pottstown. 2 years ago, that number was closer to 70. If you look at numbers across the country, that relationship is an average with COVID and especially more locally with Hurricane Ida than the homelessness that has happened since both of those things. We're not above average in any way with homelessness. Thank you.
You can finish your thought.
Oh.
I mean, I'm just letting you know
So
you
we're
had
not
5
above average
seconds.
in any way, and you know, it's just not gonna go away until us or someone else is given the opportunity to help with that. Thank you.
All right, Kristen Serbeck, please.
Hi, I'm Kristen from Beverly's down on High Street. I'm gonna mirror what April and Steve said because I've been here since 2014 and I do feel in the last 2 years that it has gotten more diverse with our homeless people in the sense that we do have a couple of regulars and then now it's a lot of new people. And I do think that we're being made to be pushed under because we have to care about the homeless, and I do genuinely appreciate what you guys are doing. But it needs to be outside of town. It needs to be pushed away, and with it being even worse in the last 2 years, it kind of makes me believe that with them being at St. Al's, it's been closer to town, which means they have more room to come into town. I personally have 8 girls who work for me, and not one of them can take trash out back because I have people living in the back of our bakery. I have to have a boy walk with us in the back. And I know that sounds sexist and stupid, but it's the truth. We are very afraid to walk in the back of alleys to throw our trash out. I have people constantly urinating in our vegetables. And my point would be, if we're going to do this service, then there needs to be accountability for them. There needs to be, you come into this, you have to do something to stay in this shelter. I don't think there's any accountability. There's just give me, give me, give me. I'll take, I'll take, I'll take. And then I'm gonna trash your town. And there's also accountability on your end because there is trash everywhere. They are just doing whatever they want. And I get your mission, but we also have to hold them accountable as well. They have to be able to act like a human being if we are going to treat them like a human being. And that's all I have to say about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Kurt Hatfield, please. Two more.
Thank you. I don't think I could be any more articulate than Kristen just was, and I thank you for what you said. So I'll take a little bit different tact. I am a business owner on High Street. I own property on North Hanover Street. As an employer and an investor in town, I am acutely aware of the problem of homelessness. I have 24 or more employees in town every day, and the list of comments that they are bringing to me about encounters and problems grows constantly. Trying to add more employees to grow our business here in Pottstown is getting more difficult. And when applicants come in and sit down, and the first comment they make is about, I had to come through people on the street. I was afraid to park my car. Do you think they're gonna take a job in my office? It makes it very difficult for me to grow my business. One small thing about cost I heard on the LIFT project, willing to pay taxes on a single property. What a small amount of money that would bring when we look at the opportunity cost that is lost. If Pottstown has a reputation of an attraction for homeless people to come here, that's going to be a big cost of other businesses that are going to stay away. I can't grow the current business. New businesses won't come in, new investments. That cost will far exceed anything you're going to get off of one small property paying property tax, if they ever paid it. So I would encourage you to oppose this, and I do think there is a solution that can be found in the borough, but perhaps a better solution can be found. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Deborah Ann Spence, Roland Street.
All righty. So to get a warm reception from this council, you got to be in another country. You got to be in another country on the side of the road with an accent and talk about bringing European cars. So anyway, my question doesn't have anything to do with what was discussed tonight. I just thought that was ironic. We pledged to the flag and all that. But anyway.
Stop.
My question is, does the borough have a up-to-date comprehensive plan? Because when I looked online, I saw something from 2014, I think. And then I saw that there's a Pottstown metropolitan comprehensive plan, but that is also very old. Is there anything recent? And if there is something recent, may I have a copy of it? May I be able to pick it up? If it's not anything recent, when will it be updated?
Yeah, we'll get back to you, Ms. Spence.
Of
Ron,
course.
Ron Williams,
Of course.
245
Thank you.
Walnut Street. Thank you.
Hey, folks. I just wanted to pop in. I won't spend a lot of time on this. Mayor, Madam Mayor, I hope, well, I won't make it that way. I just want to announce that the Pottstown powwow, the powwow on Manatawny Creek will be taking place on April 30 and May 1. I know you missed that, just skipped, right? That April 30 date looks like it's going to be a pretty active day all around town, and I'm a little excited because this is the time that we start to open our doors up to visitors to come in and enjoy the strong, healthy community that we have. And I want to invite all of you to, we'll be at Riverfront Park. We have a large number of vendors that will be present. I think last year was an incredible success, and I pray that we'll have the kind of weather that will make this one a successful event as well. I wanted to address the burial site memorial on Franklin and Industrial Highway. I went out to clean the place a couple of weeks ago, and I noticed that the new owners of the Humphrey Flag Company property had knocked down a number of trees around the area, including trees that were on the burial site. I don't know what where the permissions for doing that were, but it was just a little disheartening to see, and yeah, I just wanted to mention that. As many of you know, I make frequent trips out to the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota to provide to deliver provisions that have been donated to help the folks on the reservation. Extremely, probably the most poverty-stricken communities in the nation. I can't go to that reservation and come away feeling anything but my heart bleeding for the poverty that exists out there. I also travel a lot. I've been to Vancouver, British Columbia, Seattle, Los Angeles. And when we see these cardboard shelters that individuals have made for themselves, just inundating the streets, it makes me wonder, you know, about how we're treating one another and how we're caring for one another. I don't know what you folks are going to do regarding the petition that's been made tonight, but I truly hope and pray that you take into consideration the one thought that there but for fortune go you are. Thank you.
Thank you, and that concludes public comment.
Justin,
Oh,
Justin.
he wanted to say.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Tom, but we had to send in an email or a chat. We have too many commenters tonight, and we have to keep this organized.
Amy Wolf wanted to be,
This is not regular policy though, right?
We can hear him say.
No, he explained it up front.
It's on the agenda, it's on the website. This is the policy going forward.
Amy
We
Wolf
should've
wanted to comment as well, but she's not here this evening. She
Should
sent
have
me an
informed the
email, sent it
public
to you.
before this, I think.
Okay.
Inform the public.
Courtney, can you please take care of that? Go ahead.
All right, we're up to Councilors General discussion. Mr. Kirkland, are you with us? Mr. Paulus? Nope. Councilor Lindsay? Any comment?
You're gonna be very shocked, but I'm gonna say no because I can take a good 20 minutes. So it's 9:12, so I'm gonna pass. I'll do it on Monday.
Okay, do it Monday.
Monday.
Vice President Lebanon, anything? Nothing? Councilor Prosser?
No, I was just really concerned to hear about the fire on Chestnut Street. That's a real tragedy. And of course, 60 Minutes really hope that gave Evan I guess the audience that he needs to kind of prove his point. And actually I recognized the guy for about a second or two on that 60 Minutes episode too.
Mayor Henry?
I have nothing. Thank you.
Okay. As for me, I do want to reiterate and thank Evan Brandt for doing such a great job on 60 Minutes. And once again, I want to congratulate our finance director on the birth of her young son. Wish them well. We will be going to an executive session discussing litigation. There will be no decisions, no action taken. So, meeting adjourned.
Dan, you forgot me.
Oh, Lisa, I'm sorry. No, go.
Sorry, Lisa.
I wasn't loud enough tonight, was I?
No.
I only have two things, and they're quick.
No,
I
you
just
gotta
wanted-
you gotta understand on the screen, you're so small. Okay.
I'll try to be bigger next time. Hopefully I'll get there in
No,
person.
no, no,
at some
Justin controls the sides of those rectangles.
Yeah.
point. Make it big, Justin.
Okay, sorry I missed you, go
Just to
ahead.
comment on one thing that Don said about the trash. I've been watching just my local area here, and I live in a wind tunnel, and trash blows everywhere. I am frequently going out and picking up trash. But one thing that I saw was the Mascaro people stopping to pick up trash. Like, it was an incredibly windy day. It was everywhere. Trash cans were knocked over, and they picked some stuff up. And I've seen that on 2 occasions. So I know we get a lot of complaints. I've complained about stuff too. So I just want to point out when something positive happens. And then I did go out and give them a bag of apples. So-
Okay, good to hear.
The other thing, I just want to thank all the citizens, regardless of what your comment was, for coming out and speaking. That's what these meetings are for. And you deserve to have your voice heard. So thank you for coming out. I know it's late, so I appreciate that.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I'm done. you.
Anyone else I missed? If not, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
And just a reminder to all the counselors, check your email for a login to the executive session if you're virtual.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thanks. See you shortly.
This conference is no longer being recorded.